friends, today I have a massive book haul. We absolutely hate capitalism, except when we go shopping. My name is Lexi and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my spring book haul, which I'm very excited about. I have accumulated quite a few books, but before we dive in to the book haul, I would like to thank today's sponsor, which is Green Chef. Thank you so much, Green Chef, for sponsoring today's video. Because as much as I love books, I also am an equal fan of food. You could say they're both the great loves of my life. Green Chef is a CCOF certified organic meal company that helps you cook clean, delicious dinners week after week with step-by-step recipes and pre-measured premium ingredients that save you time. And whether you eat keto, paleo, vegetarian, Mediterranean, fast and fit, vegan, or gluten-free, Green Chef has an option for you. And to celebrate Earth Month, Green Chef is partnering with One Tree Planted to plant trees in northern Thailand to combat food insecurity in vulnerable communities. And for a limited time, Green Chef will also plant one tree for every box sold. And now, let me tell you some of my very favorite things about Green Chef. First of all, I love that they're a certified organic company. They also make it easy to customize your weekly order to satisfy everyone's craving by mixing and matching meals from different dietary preferences. They also have choices for breakfast, lunch, and dinner that fit your healthy lifestyle. And Green Chef saves you so much time by taking care of meal planning, grocery shopping, and most of the prep for you week after week so that you don't have to. This month, I was sent 2 incredible recipes, and I found a new favorite in their sweet and spicy orange cauliflower bowls. This was such an incredibly easy meal to cook and create, and oh my gosh, there is an orange apricot like glaze that goes on top of everything. I am obsessed with this recipe, and for a limited time, for every single box that is sold, Green Chef will actually plant a tree with the organization One Tree Planted in honor of Earth Month. If you are interested in trying them out, you can use my code Roseland60 to get your very first box 60% off plus free shipping. All links for them will be down below in my description, and I highly recommend checking them out. Okie dokie, now that we've talked about food, it's time to talk about books. I will say, as just a little bit of a disclaimer, if you have seen my come book shopping video with me, or my latest kind of like spring reading video, or even like a couple of my other videos, you might recognize some of these titles. But some of these titles I don't think I've hauled or like shown in previous videos yet. So hopefully some of these will be new to you, but if you've seen these in other videos, I'm sorry. I've gone ahead and divided this into 2 categories. The first are going to be all of the adult reads that I have, and then the second category are going to be all of the like kids lit. So we've got YA and also middle grade. But let's get started with the adult stuff. Okay, so within the adult category, I would like to kick things off with fantasy. I love a good fantasy moment. I love a good dragon. I want to pretend that I will get swept off my feet someday by a knight who just wants to take me to the little cafe in Legends and Lattes, and we can eat scones and then make out. Alas, that is not my current reality, and so instead I'll just read about it. So let's go ahead and get started with the first book, which is actually an ebook that I got from my Kindle, or for my Kindle, and that is That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming, or Lemmings, I think. I will pop it on the screen. I'm obsessed with this book. So I got the ebook version, the rest are all gonna be physical, but this particular book I got on my Kindle, and I wanted to mention it because actually it's going to be traditionally published. So if you are interested in this book, it's actually coming out, I don't know when. I'll pop the date on the screen if I know it. So this book is about Cinnamon, and Cinnamon is a spice farmer. Cinnamon does not want a life of fantasy. She basically just wants like a chill, happy little life in her village, farming her spices. She has no interest in going off on adventures or saving the day or any of that jazz. And then one day when she's coming back from a festival, she finds a very attractive man who needs help. She's very drunk out of her mind, and she decides to help him, and lo and behold, he is a demon. Sparks fly. And not just like the magic kind, you know what I mean? So it's a spicy fantasy. They go on adventures. They have wild, steamy good times. And like, what can I say? It was absolutely everything to me. So I know you can't get it now, but when it does come out, I think you should buy it. Next up, I've got a book that has enemies to lovers and fairy content, so you know it's gonna be a 5 out of 5 star for me. And that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and this is by Heather Fawcett. This particular book is following Emily, and she gets a little wild. No, this book is following Emily Wilde, and she is a professor who is researching all of her findings on fairies. And I think she actually goes to this quaint little cute cozy town where she meets her academic rival, and she writes her book about fairies. Honestly, that's kind of all I know. Next up is a book that I bought because I have heard so many incredible things about it, and it is called The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, and this is by Roshani Chokski. And so many people have been reading this and devouring this and loving this, and I really wanted to pick this up because of all of the great reviews. It says a sumptuous gothic infused story about a marriage that is unraveled by dark secrets, a friendship cursed to end in tragedy, and the danger of believing in fairy tales. Next up is a book that I bought because it sounds cottagecore, but like make it gothic. Also, the cover, I mean, she's a cutie. And that is Wayward by Emily Hart. Look at it. Just like, we need to take a moment. It's literal art. This book is following 3 different perspectives, and each perspective actually kind of intertwines with each other. The 2 perspectives that I'm most interested though is the first one, which takes place in 2019, and we're following our main protagonist, Kate. And Kate is fleeing London to go to this little family cottage because she is trying to escape, I think, an abusive relationship. And that is intermingled with a perspective, I think from the 1600s, from a woman in her family, I think, who was like associated with the witch trials, and I think that she is almost being tried for black magic or for witchcraft in the 1600s. And so I'm just really interested to see how these 2 perspectives, along with the 3rd perspective, kind of all intermingle. It sounds really magical. I'm assuming that this is fantasy, but I actually don't know. But yeah, it sounds really good. And also, I have not heard one single bad thing about this book. Next up, I wanted to pick up a bit of like a pirate inspired adventure. The summertime is coming. It's finally getting warm out. Thank God. And I found this and I thought, you know what? This will be perfect for the summertime. And that is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi, and this is by Shannon Chakraborty. I mean, look at it. It's a chunky fantasy. It's gonna be perfect for the summertime. We're following this pirate and her pirate crew, and she actually wants to retire, but then she gets a request from her friend who's like, hey, my daughter just got kidnapped. And then our main captain, Amina, is like, I got you. And she goes to save her BFF's little girl. Next up, I have here Leigh Bardugo's newest release, and that is Hellbent, with this very scary picture of this little rabbit, and I just want to feed him some carrots and tell him that I love him because he looks like he's really gone through it, okay? This is the sequel to Leigh Bardugo's Ninth House book, which is an adult fantasy, dark academia vibes about a girl named Alex, and Alex can see ghosts, and she is invited by Yale University to be a part of sort of kind of like this sorority fraternity, but the sorority fraternity actually is more like the police who tried to keep the ghosts at bay for the other sororities and fraternities. And it's just about her finding out about like some secrets that happen at Yale and trying to crack a murder, and it's a really good time. Okay, next up, I picked up a couple self-published books. I'm actually getting way more invested in the self-publishing game. I have found so many excellent and really exciting books that have been self-published. So I did buy 2 of these books. I think both of them are in Kindle Unlimited, but I wanted the physical copies. The first one is by Rebecca Thorne, and it's called Can't Spell Treason Without T. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I have heard very mixed opinions about this book. It's about 2 women who are in a relationship, and all they wanna do is open a tea and bookshop. But I think one is like considered one of the most powerful mages, and the other one I want to say is like a knight or something. I don't really know. But it's about them trying to open up this tea and bookshop, and I want to say that this is a cozy fantasy, but I've heard from a lot of people that this is a lot more of a traditional fantasy with some cozy elements sprinkled in. And then the other one that I got is called The House Witch, and this is by how do I pronounce that? Delamac? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And this particular one is about someone named Finley. Oh my God, Finley, the name Finley is everywhere, but it's about Finley, and Finley joins the staff of the king and queen, I think. And I want to say that he's the cook, but no one knows this. Finley can do magic. Next, I picked up Seanan McGuire's latest release, which is Lost in the Moment and Found. And this is the next novella in her Every Heart a Doorway / Wayward Children series, which I freaking love with my whole heart. This book is about Ancy, and Ancy really starts off with like a very tragic backstory. She gets a stepdad who you absolutely want to kick in the face, okay? She gets a stepfather who essentially tries to abuse her, and I'm gonna be very delicate with my language here, but if you kind of understand my drift, he tries to abuse her in a very gross, disgusting way. Like you will want to punch him. She decides to run away from home before anything happens, so if this is a sensitive topic to you, I feel like Seanan McGuire handled this very, very delicately and very gently. So Ancy decides to run away, and she ends up at the shop for lost and found things, which is a magical little shop. And this shop actually has a door that can go in and out of other worlds. And so we're following her journey in this magical little shop as she is trying to also find the parts of her that she has lost along the way in her childhood. It's a very beautiful, beautiful exploration of childhood and of growing up and of very tough, bad things, but it's just done in a really beautiful way. It's whimsical, it's fantastic. It's a 5 out of 5 star. I've already read it, I've already devoured it. I just love everything in this series. Next up, I picked up a literary fiction with some speculative elements, and it's called The Seven Moons of Molly Almeida, and this is by Xian Karun Atalika. We're following our main protagonist, Molly, who actually wakes up dead. Molly has 7 days to kind of reconnect to the people in Molly's life and try to find out how Molly ended up dead. And I just think it sounds really, really fascinating. We have kind of a ghost story, we have kind of a murder mystery, but also we're seeing a lot of backstory to this country and to a lot of the things that are currently happening in this country. It just sounds really, really good. So I can't wait to read it and devour it, I think this summer. And then next up, we have 2 books that are a little bit more like speculative sci-fi-esque. The first one is very sci-fi, and it is called A Psalm for the Wild Built, and this is by Becky Chambers. This was my book club pick for my Patreon. If you're interested in joining 2 different book clubs, you can join us. It's not that expensive. It's like the very first level. There are live shows. We also do Disney movie nights on that level. It's a fun, really good time. But anyways, this was our book club pick for last month, and this is all about Dex. Dex wants to become a tea monk, and tea monk, it's very precious. Tea monks, basically what they do is they have a tea service, and if you are in need of like just a moment to kind of collect yourself and to talk about what's troubling you, you can go to Dex and you can have a cup of tea. And then one day, Dex actually meets a wild robot, and the robot wants to ask how humanity's doing and what they need. And it's just a conversation about like what it's like to be human, and it's beautiful. And then finally, the last book in this particular stack is gonna be Out There by Kate Folk, and this is a collection of short stories. The short stories in here all range, but they feel sort of kind of like stories that happen right before an apocalypse or right before the end of the world, or they have some kind of like a possible scientific futuristic element that makes it a little bit speculative too. And I actually really, really enjoyed this collection. I feel like short stories are difficult to kind of review in a collection because your opinions are gonna range from short story to short story, but there were so many freaking gems and 5 stars in this book. I cannot even tell you. Like, I mostly had 5-star reads from this. Out There was 5 stars. The Last Woman on Earth was 5 stars. The Turkey Rumble was a freaking 5 out of 5 star. There's only one in here that I really did not like, and I mention it in every single one of my videos that I talk about this, and that is Moist House. I couldn't finish it, so I have no idea. Like, maybe it's the most brilliant story in the collection, but I could not stand the descriptions of this moist house and how this man had to keep lubricating this moist house. Okay, let's move on. And that's it for all of the fantasy. So let's go ahead and dive into adult mystery, horror, thriller type vibey books. Okay, so the first 2 like cozy mystery, murder mysteries that I have are the next 2 books in the Finley Donovan series by Elle Cosimano. And these books are sequels. It's like books 2 and 3. So I won't actually mention what these ones are about, but the premise of the series itself is following Finley, and Finley is a struggling single mom who is trying to be a writer. She ends up kind of telling her next plot to her agent, I think, at a Panera Bread, and she's talking about, she writes thrillers, and so she's talking about how she wants to kill off her main character, and somebody overhears this and thinks that she's a hit woman, and then they hire Finley to take out this woman's husband. And it's a fun, exciting, thrilling comedy, and we'll see if Finley Donovan can jump the gun and knock him dead. The titles are fun. Okay. Next up is a book that is giving me the Great British Bake Off vibes, but like Make It Murder. And honestly, that sounds so fun. And it is The Golden Spoon. And this is by Jessa Maxwell. By the way, that description came right from Liv from Olivia Reads a Latte, who is the person who inspired this purchase. I think she was reading this for our Murder She Read 48-hour readathon. And so I don't know a lot about this. I just know that Liv thought this was a really fun time. It says here, when someone turns up dead on the set of TV's hottest baking competition, the contestants must band together in search of a killer before one of them is the next elimination. Next up, I picked up Agatha Christie's Marple, which are 12 new mysteries based on her old mysteries or her Marple mysteries, and quite a few people are in here who have contributed to this anthology. Lee Bardugo's in here, Lucy Foley's in here, Natalie Haynes, Ruth Ware, Karen M. McManus. I mean, we've got like an incredible cast of writers. And also, I love Agatha Christie. I'm very excited to read this collection. I'll report back and let you know my thoughts. Next up, we have a paranormal thriller, and it is by the queen, Kate Alice Marshall. I love Kate Alice Marshall. She wrote Rules for Vanishing. This is her first adult scary time book, and that is What Lies in the Woods, again, by Kate Alice Marshall. And this book is about 3 besties who go into the woods when they are very young, and when they come out, one of them is severely injured, and they say that there was a person in the woods who attacked them, and they put away that killer. But then years and years and years later, the truth starts to resurface, and it turns out that they lied about what happened. And so we get to find out what actually lies in the woods. Next up, we have a literary thriller that I actually read for a book club that I didn't even get to go to, which I think is so sad. That is I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca Mackay, and this is considered a literary thriller. And we're following our main protagonist, Bodhi, who is a podcaster and also a professor, and she ends up guest lecturing at her old preparatory school where she teaches a class on how to be a podcaster. And while she's there, she ends up kind of re-examining this murder case that happened when she was really young, when her roommate Thalia tragically was murdered. I think overall it was a little bit more of like a slow read. If you're interested in a thriller that's a little bit more fast-paced, I don't know if you would love this one, but if you're looking for, I think, like a thought-provoking thriller, you might really enjoy this. Next up, I have one of my new favorite horrors. Of course, it's by my man, Grady Hendrix. I love Grady Hendrix so much. He is my bookish boyfriend. And I did read How to Sell a Haunted House, again, by my man, Grady Hendrix. And I read this actually for Gabby's book club. She very, very kindly actually asked me to co-host with one of my best friends, Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin. I will link both of their channels down below. I highly recommend checking them out. The live show for this was just like a wild fun time. We ended up all trying to pretend to be the haunted creepy puppet in here, and that was really hilarious. I just had like a really, really good time discussing this book with them. But the book itself is more about puppets and less about like a haunted house kind of. So go into this book if you are interested in being scared out of your mind by the Muppets. That's pretty much all I have to say. Next up here, I have The Writing Retreat by Julia Bart. So this particular book is following our main protagonist who goes to a writing retreat. She's a writer, she needs to be re-inspired. And then once she's at this writing retreat, somebody dies. There's like a murder, and she has to figure out what is going on before she's next. And then finally, the last book that I have that is a thriller mystery type book is going to be Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. I have heard such great things about this this book. I'm obsessed with the cover. I think it looks so fun and so cool, but also I love thrillers and also just books in general that I think dabble in darker comedy and dark humor. I really, really enjoy that. It says on the back, everyone in my family has killed someone. Some of us, the high achievers, have killed more than once. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but it's the truth. Some of us are good, others are bad, and some just unfortunate. Have I killed someone? Yes, I have. Who is it? Let's get started. I mean, come on. And I think that's it for the murder mystery types. So now let's go to the romance. The first romance I have here is Anna Maria and the Fox. Oh yeah. What if I did every romance like that? So this particular book is about Anna, and Anna Maria is the perfect daughter. She tries her very best to be everything that her parents want her to be, which can honestly be a little stifling. And then she and her siblings are actually sent to France, and while she's there, she runs into Mr. Fox. And I mean, that's all I know, but his name is literally Mr. Fox, and I'm guessing he is a fox. So not like an actual fox, you know, like sexy. You get it, okay. Next up, I did pick up Delilah Green Doesn't Care, and this is by Ashley Herring Blake. So many people have recommended this and they think that the romance is so well done. Honestly, I trust all of my friends, but I don't know a lot about it. So I'm gonna read the back. It says, Delilah Green swore she would never go back to Bright Falls. Nothing is here for her but memories of a lonely childhood. Delilah finds herself back in the godforsaken town that she used to call home. She plans to breeze in and out, but then she sees Claire, one of Astrid's stuck-up besties, and decides that maybe there's some fun and a little retribution to be had in Bright Falls all along. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think that really told us anything. Next up is a book that I have already read and devoured and loved, and that is 7 Days in June, and this is by Tia Williams. Highly, highly recommend if you have not read this, you pick this up. We're following two writers who had this very passionate and very tumultuous relationship when they were younger, and then they separate and they don't see each other for years, and they both end up becoming very successful writers. And the thing is, they both write each other into their own books. And then years and years later, they meet for a brief conference in New York and sparks fly again. It is everything you would want in a romance. It's sexy, it's steamy, it's sultry, but it has so much complexity to it. It has such a beautiful backstory that you really dive into. I feel like there are so many really complicated and hard-hitting topics in this book. Please check trigger warnings, because there were times when this book was very hard to get through because the author does such a great job at portraying trauma and really hard things that have happened to these characters that have shaped who they have become. But it's just so well worth the read. It's so beautiful. It's so fantastic. I love it. 5 stars. I think it's a great book. I think everyone should read it. And then next is a book that I am currently making my way through now, and that is Icebreaker, and this is by Hannah Grace. Like, the vibes of this so far are so freaking good. We're following two people, Anastasia and also Nate. And Anastasia is on the ice skating sort of like team for her college, and Nate is on the hockey team for their college, and they meet and sparks fly on the ice. Listen, I'm really liking this so far. I love the tension, I love the passion, and I'm about halfway. The steam in here, it's good. And that's it for all of the adult romance. So let's move on to adult contemporary next. I think that this is adult contemporary. Please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. So adult contemporary or literary fiction. The next one I have is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. And this is by Gabrielle Zevin. This is one of the books that I actually bought as like one of the first purchases of the year, because so many people have read this year, or last year actually, and they put it in their top books of the year. And all I know about this is that it's about two best friends who develop, I think, a video game together, and it's about their friendship and the video game. Next up, I picked up an Olivia Blake book, and this is Alone with You in the Ether. I've heard such incredible things about this. I think it's considered like a literary fiction, and it's also a romance between two people. On the back it says, Alone with You in the Ether is a contemporary love story like no other, exploring the nature of love and what it means to be unwell and how to face those fractures of ourselves and still love as if we're not broken. I know that this deals with mental health, and so if you are picking this up, please check trigger warnings and make sure it's okay for you to read. I've been wanting to read an Olivia Blake book for quite a while now. So next up, I picked up Pineapple Street, and this is by Jenny Jackson, and this is rich people drama. We're following 3 different sisters who all moved to New York. They're originally from New England, and they all come from like a very, very wealthy New England family, and it's about their lives, I think, in Manhattan. I don't know. Listen, I think it's gonna be really good. I think it's gonna be really, really messy. I'm excited to read it, and that's all I know about Pineapple Street. And then the last one I have here is Mame, and this is by Jessica George. We are following our main protagonist, whose name is Maddie, and Maddie has really sacrificed a lot of her life to take care of her family. And then one day, I think she kind of is not let go, but like her mom encourages her like, okay, now I can kind of take care of dad, and so you can go off and really experience life for yourself and not have to take care of everyone in the family. And so she ends up going out and trying a bunch of firsts. She tries to get her heart broken and fall in love, and she explores her sexuality, and it's just about her really letting herself live for the first time. And it just sounds really, really great. I've heard excellent things about it. I can't wait to read it. But yeah, that is Mame. And I think that's it as far as adult books are concerned. So let's dive into the kids lit next with YA and middle grade. Okay, first up, let's start with some manga. I think this is YA, but if this is adult, please feel free to correct me down in the comments because I honestly don't know. It says on here in the back it's rated older teen, and that is Spy Family. So many people love this book series, this manga series, and I really, really wanted to get on the hype train as well. It just sounds so good. We're following our main protagonist, who I think is called Spy Twilight, and for his next assignment he needs to take on a wife and kid and pretend to be like a family man, and he doesn't know it, but his wife is actually a deadly assassin, and the child that they like fake adopt is a telepath. That sounds so freaking good. Next up, I got Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert with this horrid sticker that says buy one, get one free. So I love Talia Hibbert. She writes a lot of adult romance, and this I think is her first YA romance. Bradley and Selena used to be best friends until Brad decided he was too cool for conspiracy theory obsessed Celine and abandoned her for the popular kids table. What a jerk. And then it says these days Brad hates her guts and the feeling is mutual, and then they both end up, I think, going on like this outdoorsy adventure together, not knowing the other one signed up. And maybe, possibly, sparks are gonna fly. Then I got a graphic novel, and it's called Over My Dead Body, and this is by Sweeney Boo. And I have to tell you, I am really surprised that I have not seen more things on this because I picked it up and I'm obsessed with it. I'm not done yet, but the art style is absolutely incredible. We're following our main protagonist, whose name is Abigail, and Abigail goes to the school of witchcraft. She's a mentor to this girl who ends up going missing, and Abigail decides to get to the bottom of it and find out what happened to her. So it's a little bit of like a murder mystery, but mixed in with witchcraft. And besties, like the art style is out of this world. It's so gorgeous. I'm honestly so obsessed. So if you're looking for a fun fantasy, I think for fall even, this, I mean, I highly recommend. The next book I purchased is Holly Black's newest, The Stolen Heir, and this is not really a continuation of her Cruel Prince series, but it is kind of taking place in the same world. We're following Seren, who is a fairy who was originally like a changeling, and she grew up in the human world, and then she has to go back to the fae world, and she does not like it. So she runs away to the forest, and then years later, her old bestie, Prince Oak, asks her for help, and they go on a little adventure. It's kind of like friends to lovers, which is my personal favorite trope. I think it's so cute. I really, really enjoyed this world. I know that this is kind of like a divisive new series. I'm here for it though. Like, I think it's so well done, and I just love Holly Black in general. Highly recommend if you love the world of Holly Black. And then the final YA that I have here is Lucy Crisp and the Vanishing House, and this is by Janet Hill. This is actually a book that was created and written and illustrated by one of my favorite artists, Janet Hill, who is so talented. Janet Hill does a lot of oil paintings, and she has such a quirky, whimsical, and unique style, and I saw that she wrote this and I immediately went to pick it up. It's about Lucy Crisp, who ends up moving to a town to become a florist. And while she's there, she stays in a house that her father purchases as like an investment property. And it's an older house. And I think parts of the house start to vanish and weird, whimsical, scary things start to happen. The art in here is so beautiful, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous book in general. So I'm very excited to check it out and to see how I feel about Lucy Crisp and the Vanishing House. Did you see what I did there? I made it vanish. I guess I could have done that with like effects and stuff, but it's fine. And now let's round out the video with some middle grades. So the very first middle grade is a book it's like middle grade, but it leans older middle grade / young YA, and it's called The Last Quintista, and this is by Donna Barba Hugueta, I think. Friends, the first time I mentioned this book was in my Come Book Shopping With Me video. I called this book The Last Crustacean. And like, let me just tell you, that is so embarrassing. And the real embarrassing thing was that my mom saw that video and she called me up and she was like, "You're Hispanic. The last Quintista, the last storyteller, you know what that means." And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So anyways, it's actually called The Last Quintista, not The Last Crustacean. I don't want to talk about it. But this book is about Petra, and Petra sadly has to leave Earth because there's a comet that's coming to destroy Earth, and so she and her family have to move to a different planet. And once she's there, no one remembers Earth, or like they're starting to forget, and it feels like the memories of Earth are being slowly erased. And so she feels in her bones that it's her responsibility to tell the stories of Earth and to keep those memories alive. And I'm very interested. I've heard that this is super, super touching and beautiful and very, very unique. And I think it's gonna be great, but just FYI, it is not called The Last Crustacean. Next up, we have a book that I think is going to break my heart, but I think is very necessary in today's times. And that is called Simon Sort of Says by Erin Bow. This is another book that I think is generating a lot of buzz, a lot of starred reviews, a lot of really positive reviews, which is incredible. So this book is following Simon, and Simon has been through a very traumatic event where he survived a school shooting, and now he has moved to a place where I guess there's like no Wi-Fi, and he and his family kind of want to start fresh because he's tired of people asking him about this really horrific day in his life that he had to live through. And I think it's about him kind of rediscovering himself and his story and really healing from that event while also making new friends in this town. I think it's going to be really, really hard to get through, but I've just heard great things about this, and I really, really want to read this. I think I've been kind of avoiding it a little bit because I know it's gonna make me cry, but I am very excited to pick this up and read this very soon. Next up, a little bit lighter, I have here The Moth Keeper by Kate O'Neill, and this is a graphic novel. And I'm gonna be really, really honest, I purchased it because it's by one of my favorite illustrators. I don't know a lot about the story. So Kate O'Neill, or Katie O'Neill, actually wrote the Tea Dragon Society books. When I found out that Kate O'Neill came out with a new one, I just immediately went out and purchased it because I love Kate's work so much. It says on the back, being the Moth Keeper is a great honor. Being the Moth Keeper is a great responsibility, but is it worth the cost? And that's that. Next up, I was very kindly sent the last book, I think in the Frost Heart trilogy by Jamie Littler. And I was sent this actually by one of my best friends, Gavin, from How to Train Your Gavin, whom I love with my whole entire heart. I will not tell you what this is about because it's the third book and I don't even know what the second book is about. But the first book is following Ash, and Ash is a song weaver who has this great ability to kind of connect connect to nature and to animals through music and through song. This ability and power is very feared by a lot of people. There's a lot of symbolism and a lot of really beautiful metaphors and themes in the first book that I loved, but also it's such a great adventure tale. It's about Ash and his guardian Yeti setting off on an adventure, kind of with this pirate crew who goes on this sled and they go from town to town. It's wonderful. It has found family elements. It's a great fantasy, but also it's so emotional and hard-hitting. And Jamie Littler is such an incredible illustrator as well. If you love illustrated middle grades, you will love this series. And then finally, the last book I have here is going to be The Swifts, A Dictionary of Scoundrels by Beth Lincoln, illustrations by Claire Powell. We're following Shenanigan Swift, and Shenanigan Swift lives in a very unique family, and they pick names for their kids based on what dictionary word pops open when they open up their family dictionary, and then they kind of label that person in the family as whatever the word is. So Shenanigan Swift is supposed to be kind of like a troublemaker. She's supposed to be really a jokester. She's supposed to be super, super silly. One day she's at this big family reunion and somebody offs her uncle. So it gets kind of dark, and she decides that she wants to add detective to her namesake as well. And so we're following her try to figure out what happened and who killed her uncle and why. I think it's her uncle. It's either her uncle or her, no, yeah, it's her grand uncle, I think. Okay. And I just can't wait. I love a murder mystery and I love a good middle grade. So I have very, very high hopes for The Swifts. Also, isn't it so freaking sad that Taylor Swift broke up with Joe? I hope she's okay. Anyways, and I think that's everything, you guys. Those are all of the books that I have recently hauled. I was also very, very kindly sent some books from some of my subscribers and Patreons, which really touched me a lot. And I did an unboxing of those particular books in my latest haul. I can link it up, no, not haul, reading vlog. I can link that up above if you're interested in seeing me unbox some books. Before we go, I would love to thank today's sponsor once again, Green Chef. And once again, a huge thank you to Green Chef for sponsoring today's video. And for a limited time, Green Chef is actually planting one tree for every single box sold with the organization One Tree Planted in honor of Earth Month. If you are interested in trying out Green Chef for yourself, you can use my code Roseland60 to get 60% off of your very first box plus free shipping. All links will be down below in my description, and I highly recommend checking them out. And a huge, huge thank you again to all of you who have watched, who like, and who comment down below. If you're interested in leaving a comment today, you can leave the emoji of the day, which let's be unoriginal and just do a stack of books. And if you would like to tell me, please let me know what your latest purchase was and if you think I should check it out. I would love to know that below as well. And also, if you didn't purchase a book, if you went to your local library and you borrowed a book, let me know that down below as well. And a huge, huge thank you to all of my Patreons over at Fox and Wood. I love you guys so much. And a huge, huge thank you specifically to the Ink and Quill Club members who are all the executive producers of every single video that I make. All of your names will be down below in my description box. And I think that's it, you guys. So until next time, book lovers, keep your head in the clouds and your heart in a book, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.
Always think of you when spring comes, like it's something in the air at that time. Don't know why. Always dream of you when spring comes. It's like the heat on my skin